All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome back to MMVC 25 and day one. This is our final session of the day, and we're coming from the United States. So if you've never been in the United States, this is your chance to feel like you're there with Dr. Katie Sam Monnin, who is US-based Education Outreach Associate at Kialo, where she leverages her 25 plus years of experience in education to help institutions implement structured online digital discussions that foster critical thinking. As an award-winning educator and author of 8 books on visual literacy and pop culture in education, she specializes in innovative approaches that bridge traditional and digital literacies. Dr. Monnin brings her unique expertise in graphic novels, digital media, and social justice curricula to help educators transform classroom discussions into powerful learning experiences. Now, I want to say for all of you, we talked about money before, and we talked about money quite a bit. Kialo is free, Free. And I just want to put that forward. And that's why I'm so impressed. Not just that, but why I'm so impressed. And you'll find out more. So let me stop sharing because this is really exciting and let you continue. Please click on Dr. Samonin's screen if you see meeting there so that here it comes.
Are you ready for me?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Okay, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for being here today. I feel really grateful to have been one of the last presenters of the day. I got to listen to everybody and learn from everyone. There was so much talk about AI in education, critical thinking. I think that this is going to be a good way to end our day because I have a lot to say about that. And I hope that Kialo can help out in some of those areas that were discussed today. You will also notice that some of you have probably received a LinkedIn invitation from me. Dr. Nelly, I'm impressed with your cast of guests today. Amazing people, amazing time. I hope that I can bring some information to the table. Okay. So, and if I didn't add you on LinkedIn, please feel free to add me. You can find me very easily. Okay. So my presentation is entitled Collaborative Critical Inquiry, Leveraging Kialo for Deeper Learning in Digital Spaces. So let's do this. All right. So who is Kialo? Dr. Nelly, you started us off brilliantly. I like to start also with the part that we are free. And I start with this. I just started about 4 years ago or 4 months ago at this job. And one of my first tasks was to prepare for this presentation. I've been on the agenda for a minute now. And as I prepared, I had this particular slide last, and I also had it last in the demos when I first started at Kialo. And I slowly but surely realized that this slide, this piece of information about Kialo being free is probably best shared up front. So we are a nonprofit organization based in Berlin, Germany, because Germany and Europe have the strictest DPAs, data privacy agreements. So we offer a 100% free argument mapping tool designed to make class discussions more productive, develop critical thinking skills, and teach civil discourse. And why? Because our funders care about making the world a more thoughtful place. I cannot say enough about that. As I was looking for my job, it was about a year of a job search for me because I was very much interested in working for an organization that was mission-based, thinking about the future of education, and wanted to do social justice, good work in the world. And Kialo aligns with all of those things and offers those tools for free to educators. So I cannot say enough about that, and I cannot be grateful enough for the founders and the organizers who run our organization and fund this. You will never even see ad space sold on our website. It is just free and for educational purposes. So let's talk about this. All right. Before we talk in too much detail, I want you to know that Moodle has an argument mapping plugin for Kialo. If at the end of the presentation you need that, I can share a slide that has the directions for doing that. You're more than welcome to screenshot that. You are also more than welcome. I know that this is not always just a Moodle conference anymore. I think in the past, maybe it's been super Moodle focused. If you're using another LMS, send me an email. I'll hook you up. I'll let you know how to get Kialo plugged into your LMS system. Okay. So who am I? Dr. Nelly, you did an amazing job of introducing me. I don't even think I remember sending that in, but yes, I have 25 years experience. It's hard to believe that I started teaching in 1999. When I say that anymore, kids' eyes bug out of their heads. You were in that previous century. Yes, I was. And my specialty is the intersectionality of print text literacies and visual literacies. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is so important in today's digital landscape. Anyways, I was fortunate enough to get my PhD in literacy from Kent State University, where they allowed me to be really creative and to innovate a future forward thinking curriculum and instruction degree where I talk about new literacies and the future of education. So here we go. I want to start with a question. And I encourage you to answer this question in the chat. When you are thinking about or planning collaborative online discussions, what are some goals you have in mind for students? And this question, as you guys think about this and maybe type some stuff in the chat, is coming directly out of our conference from ISTE. They asked a very similar question at ISTE this year, if you were there, and it got some of the highest voting responses that they wanted more student engagement. So what do we mean when we want more student engagement out of online discussions? What are your goals? I know that some of my goals are to increase participation and to deepen topic comprehension, metacognitive recognition of their learning. Right. And I think we'll see that happen today when we have a digital tool that can put the verbal and the visual factual details out there for the students to reason with and to understand. That metacognitive awareness becomes a lot more easy to translate. Oh, and translate into their student services and metacognitive recognition of their learning and how that recognition translates into their student services in school. Ooh, Jasmine, I did already add you on LinkedIn. I'm very interested in that conversation as well. Okay, cool. All right, so we might have a lot of goals in mind, increased participation. How does the, whoops, I lost the chat there for a second. Let me scroll down. I'm a teacher. Yes, when I was a professor, Jasmine, I was a teacher educator, a teacher professor. So I got you, hardcore. Okay. To understand geopolitical issues. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we've got a lot of goals in mind. I think our topic library, Ella, would really interest you in that regard. Okay, so let's keep thinking about what our goals are and what online discussions have been and what they could be. All right, so we know that class discussions are fantastic learning activities. It gets people talking, it gets people engaged, we get to have deeper topic comprehension, we get to learn from each other. All of those things are happening at the same time. However, they're hard for many students. I might seem like a very good social person. I'm very good with people in my adult years. As a kid, I was a quiet kid. So oral discussions were really hard for me because I just wasn't that talkative. Let's back up. And I think I heard a lot about this today. Why are class discussions even more important in a modern AI-driven world? I would say two specific things. If you're familiar with literacy scholarship over the last 20 or 30 years, Gunther Kress is one of the most prominent literacy scholars. And over 20 years ago, he was writing, and based on the New Literacies group, the New London group in the 1990s, he was writing about, we are living during the greatest communication revolution of all time in literacies and in technology. Those are the two things that are driving it. And if we don't teach that communication revolution, he said, we would be doing the greatest disservice in the history of education. I think all this digital leadership, media literacy, AI in education is the future of education. I was so pleased today to hear people talking about teaching the greatest communication revolution of all time. And how do we make wiggle room for all of these things? One of them being critical thinking. Critical thinking is so important in an AI-driven world. A number of presenters today were talking about the benefits of AI. I actually belong to an AI in education group where we are fans of AI. However, you have to be a content area expert. You have to learn to ask questions. So if we don't teach today's generation to be critical thinkers, they might blindly accept whatever AI gives them. And that is not the goal of AI. The goal of AI is to work with it and to keep progressing and getting deeper. So Kialo hopes to develop more critical thinkers. Also, now that teaching and learning are synchronous and asynchronous, we need more class discussions that promote collaboration. We want students talking to each other, even if we are at our homes and not in person. What does online communication look like? How do we track that participation? In online discussions, we'll talk about this more in a second. I remember as a ELA high school and middle school teacher and as a professor of literacy, I would often remember the initial part of the discussion, but I would lose track of who said what as, you know, the 30, 40 minutes of the discussion would go on. Kialo keeps track of all of those things. Another thing that I think gets lost in traditional oral discussions is that equitable accountability. How do I make sure that everybody's accountable for at least sharing one thing, commenting to someone else, and how do I make sure I track that all? We're going to find out. All right. So here are these problems for engagement and inclusivity in traditional oral discussions and in online forums. Okay, one of them is shy students in oral discussions have to compete with more confident students. I'm sure you all know someone like me as a kid who did not want to talk in class, but I had plenty to say. But because the other kids in class were more popular or had more friends or all those things were happening, I didn't feel as confident to share my ideas. It didn't mean I didn't have anything to say. I do want to pause right here and let you know, we were talking about the weather earlier. I'm in Florida and we are having a tremendous thunderstorm outside. So if I lose you, I will make sure Dr. Nelly gets all of my slides and all of that stuff because it's really crazy out there. I don't know if you can hear the thunderstorm, but just in case. Okay. So in traditional oral discussions, sometimes those shy students don't get the chance to share what they need to share. Students can't always respond. I had a teacher in high school who gave us a sheet of paper and she said, I want you to write down who has the funniest comment, who has the smartest, and it was all of this judgment as to value. And it really intimidated me. And I did not want to respond in class because I did not want to evaluate my peers. And I also didn't want to put myself down. So it wasn't that I didn't have anything to say again. It's just, I couldn't respond because I felt alienated by her lesson plan. I have friends who have stuttered and have had tremendous problems talking in oral discussions because they have difficulties with public speaking. Again, not because they don't have anything to say. They just felt uncomfortable. In online forum discussions in the 90s, we were so excited, late 90s, early 2000s, that these were coming out and they gave us a place to have online discussions. It is 20 years later. At this point in time, we're seeing very little quality interaction in online forums. They're a little bit unstructured, hard to follow. Please comment on 2 posts, respond to this person, and then you have to cobble that together. And sometimes those boring layouts. I think one of the many things that has happened post-COVID for online learning that has been great is we've gotten rid of boring layouts. We've realized the value of visual literacies, both in person and online. All right, so what does all of this end up meaning? If any of these things are occurring, there's an overarching fear of judgment from peers and from teachers, I think as well, just a fear of judgment. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to say anything off. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. So how does Kialo solve for these issues? All right. In 2003, Kress predicted how we could solve for these issues. He said very simply, the world told is a different world to the world shown. In the modern literacy world, we have to balance the textual literacies with the visual literacies. Here we go. Kialo does that with argument mapping. What's an argument map? An argument map is a digital tool for visually structured argumentation. These visual maps display claims in a pro-con hierarchical branching structure, and that transforms abstract reasoning in these visual maps that clearly identify information and relationships. It's centered on a clear proposition for debate. So in this case, does pineapple belong on pizza? Maybe. This person on the left feels anything edible belongs on pizza. Person in the middle disagrees. It's unpleasant to share pizza with someone who likes pineapple on their pizza. And on the far right, pineapple is tasty with meat, although not with tofu. So it's centered on a clear proposition. People are adding their claims to support or refute that. And then the arguments and counter arguments are logically linked together through that visual structure. In this case, we have the family tree. All right. Research even supports that argument mapping is excellent for critical thinking. It engages us in self-reflective judgment. I know that when I first started at Kialo, one of my tasks was to go in and make argument trees. And I started realizing that although I thought one thing, as I started mapping it out, I'm not sure I agreed with myself as I followed those trails. So it was very self-reflective, and it called on me to then go find better evidence and better arguments. Students can also construct their own arguments. I saw on Kialo, they had one topic template that said, the best soccer players, I'm a huge soccer fan, the best soccer players are these 5 or 6 men. And I had an issue with that. I said, oh, I think the best soccer player in the world is Marta. So I constructed my own tree of that argument and mapped it out on the template for Kialo. Analyzing reasoning. I can see your reasoning in a Kialo argument map. I can see my reasoning. I can see everyone else's reasoning and how it connects. And maybe I'm reading through those connections and I think it doesn't connect. So that's a comment that I'm going to add. I'm going to show you Kialo in just a second in a demo. We can also, in an argument map, evaluate others' arguments. And we'll see that when I do the demo in just a minute. Argument mapping is especially excellent for supporting and refuting claims. So in other words, what Stephen, sorry, that was a loud thunder and lightning. I don't know if you heard that, but that was super loud out there. What Stephen Toulmin was talking about in the 1950s, arguing with claims and grounds and warrants. Students don't just say what they think, but why. As an English language arts teacher, this reminds me of Louise Rosenblatt's reader response theory. Students can feel any way they want about a text, but they must link it to that why. What was the concrete evidence that gave me this feeling? And that's what Kialo does. Why do I think what I think? And how do I support that with the evidence? Students also engage with multiple perspectives, which is brilliant in today's modern world, especially if we have all these social media sites and we can comment to each other. And they also have a visual, logical framework to follow those perspectives so we don't lose track of anything over time. Students focus on reasoning alone. So instead of being distracted by all these things out here, we are concretely focused on our trail of claims and evidence. And students have time to think. If something is both synchronous and asynchronous, I can walk away from it. I can come back. Maybe you've made a claim about something that I think is maybe Jasmine has made a claim I thought was very profound in her presentation. I need to then go find a source to then counter that because maybe I disagree with Jasmine, but I want to make sure I have time to think about that and find my sources before I share. All right. It is also, I heard a lot today about language development. Kialo is excellent for language development. Gives us real authentic scenarios. Students receive input. They produce innovative language in response, given what they know and what they're trying to know. We know that social engagement and personally relevant discussions foster motivation. So if you're engaging me in my own language on a Kialo tree and asking me to support myself, I feel very motivated to do that because I want to learn how to talk in that language. Teachers can set up debates that center around target vocabulary. I did this in Denver when I was at, if anybody's heard of Stargate, it's a gifted and talented school. It's a really good one in the nation. We use vocabulary targeted instruction there with visuals. And then structure helps students to make relevant claims using target content. So if I'm structured, I can have a target content and hit it. All right, let's do some demo time. I hope that this is going to work. All right. So there we go. Oh, it worked. Great. Awesome. Okay. So here's Kialo. When students and teachers enter a Kialo discussion, the first thing they see is the background information. This orients them to what the topic is about. So what are we debating today? In this particular case, is do aliens exist? If you ever set up your own Kialo discussion, I highly encourage you to have a lot of fun with this intro information discussion because it really sets the stage and the tone for what we're going to ask students to think about today. So I like the tone of this one. Have you ever looked up at a clear night sky? There are so many planets, stars, and even whole galaxies that can make your head spin. And to think that our night sky is only one tiny, tiny piece of the universe. That leads many to ask, who else could be out there? So in other words, we're getting students excited about this aliens. So let's enter the discussion. We entered the discussion. The central argument or thesis is right here in the middle. Intelligent life exists elsewhere in the universe. Students can add green pro claims to support that. So in this case, this first person has said, I think so. Life can survive in many kinds of environment. I agree. I've added this green pro claim right here. On this side, students can add red con claims to refute the thesis. In this case, this person has said, I totally disagree. The Earth is special in the universe. I do not believe in aliens. I'm going to add that here. Maybe I'm reading this. I come in, I see the thesis. Okay, they believe in aliens. They also believe in aliens. This person is refuting this. I also want to refute this. I've got my own source here. My own source paraphrase says the British government also found no evidence that UFOs represent aliens. I can add that source right here and the quote that supports it. One of the things I love about adding the sources and the quotes is as teachers, we've probably all encountered this. Sometimes, once in a while, someone has misrepresented their quote in an inaccurate paraphrase. Here in Kialo, you'll see that right here if that has happened. Excuse me, I need to take a... You'll see that if that has happened. So you can add sources and you can add those links. You can also add notes in here. One thing I'll show you real quick right here is once you do that, it creates a sources library over here, which is really, really neat. So everybody has access to all the same sources that people have added. I'm just showing you a greater, bigger example of a more high school level or college or university level over here. One of the things I remember doing as a, in the late 90s when I was getting my master's in composition and rhetoric, I would keep all my sources to myself because I wanted to have the best argument. And although that probably helped my argument, in today's world, that is not the way to go. We need everybody to have the same sources so that you can read my information in this fake news world. We need to make sure that I'm reading that accurately. I've represented my sources accurately, right? So this puts everybody on the same playing field. Everybody has access to the same information so that we all know what is going on at the same time. Some other things to share real quick. Sharing a Kialo discussion, it hooks right up into Moodle. It's also very instant access or link, so you could do one of those ways. Another thing I would show you real quick is, let's go back here, is grading. You can set up as many tasks as you want students to do, write 18 claims. It levels the playing field and keeps everybody accountable for the same number of things they need to do, which then will show up in the grades. So it needs to make sure that they've done the 18 claims. You could set it to be 2 claims. It doesn't have to be this many. I'm just showing you a certain example. Okay. The last thing I want to show you about a Kialo discussion is, and this is a bigger multi-thesis over here, is the mini map discussion navigators. This is the sunburst view. I love, so anywhere I click in here, it takes me to that part of the argument, both visually and textually. And what's brilliant about this is we are balancing the visual spatial learners with the verbal linguistic learners. Anytime we're bringing as many learners to the table as possible, the better, right? And one of the things I think digital tools do the best, and online learning does the best, is it opens up the classroom to more possibilities. And here's an example of that. And these mini map discussion navigators. Okay, so I can click anywhere. It'll take me to that part of the argument. You might notice that some of these reds and greens are darker in shade. They're darker in shade because let's say I really agree with this claim right here. I can vote it a 4. It makes it a darker red up here. It lets the teacher know there's more engagement, increased participation, which means deeper topic comprehension. If a lot of your students are voting something a high number, there's a lot going on there. So that dark green or dark red is something to pay attention to. They can also comment to each other under here. Maybe I voted it, you know, a 3 and not a 4 over here. And my comment under here might say, I would have voted this a 4 had you added a source. And then you know that you need to come in here and add a source, and I'm going to go back there and vote it a 4. All right. The sunburst navigation I like for looking at the comprehensive whole argument. You can switch between sunburst and family tree. When I want to think a little more granular or linearly, I'll switch to that family tree and I'll follow my argument down that way. Last but not least, for just a brief demo of Kialo, is one of my favorite things to share. We have over 600 topic templates in from grade or age 8 up, so about 3rd grade up, through higher education to adulthood, and all of these categories: arts, civics, business and economics, social studies and history, your human geography, just for fun and icebreakers, which are really fun. The just for fun and icebreakers are pretty interchangeable with social emotional learning, that last category on there. The science and tech ones, if you are a science teacher or know a science teacher, I absolutely love our science topics because they allow students to really explore some really new ideas in science that are out there. And one of the things you can do with Kialo that's also really cool is put it in anonymous participation mode. So let's say we're trying out a scientific idea that we don't know if we agree with or not, something about cloning or something that can be semi-controversial. And our students, if we put them into anonymous participation mode, they can try out a theory. They don't have to necessarily believe in it. I think we've gotten a lot of feedback that students won't try out an idea if their name is labeled to it. But if they try it out in anonymous participation and they get to see what that feedback is from their peers, they might believe in that idea, they might not. It gives them a chance to figure it out, which is so cool in the modern world and online. Okay, we got literature topics, philosophy, pop culture and entertainment is one of my favorites, and then religious studies, super cool topic as well. Okay, let me go back to this. Did that work right? Yes, awesome. Okay, cool. We'll go here. All right. How can argument maps help solve barriers to engagement and inclusivity? I think we've seen shy students can become confident because their contributions are simultaneous. I don't have to worry about when I'm contributing or how I do it in the exact moment in time. I can think it through. I can become confident in what I have to share. And I don't have to compete to hold the floor. I remember young me was very shy. So I definitely felt I had to compete to hold the floor. All right. Students can't always respond because argument maps are asynchronous. The discussion doesn't move on and students can contribute at any time. I am autistic and I have autism and ADHD. And so often people assume that I'm really fast at things because I am really fast at things I'm good at. But when I'm not really familiar with something or I'm not that great at it, it takes me a while. So sometimes with these Kialo discussions, I've noticed I love the fact that I don't always have to respond. If it's a topic I'm not that familiar with, which, I try to put myself in my students' shoes, our students feel like that a lot. I get to take my time and then come back to it, find out what I think, and then share a little more confidently down the road. Difficulties with public speaking. This is 100% written, so it's pretty comfortable format for most of our students. Little quality interaction online. One of the many things that I love about Kialo is that it's like this online dialogue. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was this term called a polylog. I don't know if anybody remembers polylogging, but it was this written conversation that you would have in class and you'd pass pieces of paper. But this is an online digital tracked and always going to be present evergreen quality interaction. So we've solved for that. Now we have that in a digital space where it's saved, students directly interact with them, and they share each other's claims and grounds and then figure out how they feel. Forums are unstructured and hard to follow. I have been guilty of this as a professor in my early professor days. Please respond to one person, please enter 2 quotes, all of those kind of like tabulation tasks. This is much more easy to follow because you have the 2 discussion mini maps and you also can see it visually in text as well. There's nothing boring about that sunburst navigation. All right, so we've solved for those boring forum layouts. How do we have mini maps that meet the context of what we need? So if I'm thinking more large about my argument, I want that sunburst. If I want to think more granular, maybe I switch to that tree. I think with the multi-thesis in the higher ed settings, I'm going to be switching in between those 2 depending on the context of what I need to be doing. Fear of judgment from peers. These discussions can be made anonymous, so only the teacher knows who's who. The students would be put into anonymous participation with a color and an animal, so purple penguin, blue bear, stuff like that. And they actually really, really enjoy that. And I do too. I love playing in the anonymous participation mode. It's really interesting how much that opens up an authentic discussion. All right. I went really fast. I tend to go fast when I'm excited. And I was very excited to give this presentation because I really did have this as one of my initial tasks. And I was really looking forward to spending the day with you. And I want to, again, thank everybody who presented today. I feel like I was given a gift by going last and getting the benefit of all of your knowledge and everything that you're thinking about in terms of AI and innovation and the future of education. This has been a very great professional development day for me. I will shoot up this in case you need to screenshot that for Moodle integration if you need that. But that is my time, and maybe I finished a little early. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, you made Kialo, so simple. It is simple, in fact.
It is.
But, there are 2 things here. There's the point of view of the teacher who created the Kialo, and you can do this both on Moodle and beyond in a web browser. And the students, of course, and the end. And I'm glad that you gave the way it looks at the end, because I think that's really, really beautiful. What the teacher sees with all the different uh, responses and how they coincide and what they look like at the end, because that's something that you don't see at the beginning and you really look for it. So, as a teacher, I always want the students to, please start, add something. And every time somebody adds something, I say, yay, I have a pattern, and you can see the pattern as they go. So it's kind of I think for me anyways, as the teacher, it's kind of a reward to see that, the pattern at the end, with the chart and everything,
Yeah, it's like
because
it's almost like an art expression, right?
exactly,
It's an
exactly. And it's like,
expression
it's my
of our,
reward. It's like,
yeah.
it's like a present, this is my present for, because they did so much and they added so much, and you want your students to engage. Teachers are always saying this. This is a chance through Kialo for you to see your students engaged.
Yeah, we have found, our research has found so far that it increases participation by 3 to 5 times in class. And that's profound. As someone who did a lot of oral discussions back in her day before finding Kialo, I am so excited to share a free tool with educators that's going to make such a profound difference for not only their teaching and learning, but also for the future of these students who are going to need to be able to articulate themselves in this modern world where maybe we're on screens a lot, which, I think we say a lot of negative stuff about screen time. I think screen time can be really beneficial if used correctly. But like, how do we teach them to also socialize with each other? I think the humanitarian undertone I heard in a lot of our PD today was profound, and it really resonated with me. I'm so glad and happy to be part of a group of educators thinking about the future of education and how to enhance the social interactions while we have all this tech at the same time.
Well, that's the idea, because what you're getting here is responses, because we can't all be in the same place. You're getting responses from, students and participants from around the globe in Kialo, which you can't do in a face-to-face, even, with due respect to face-to-face, and we know it's important, but we want more. We want more responses. So, this is a chance for students to do it at their own pace, at their own time, and to have others also involved from other countries, make it an international discussion so you get a lot more. I've given everyone a chance to unmute themselves, so feel free to unmute, and we'd love to hear your voice, which is another thing that I would like to see on Kialo, by the way.
Voice
Audio,
direction.
voice, not only directions, but yes, voice responses, because some have difficulties writing. And another thing that I wanted to bring up was AI responses. There's no way to track whether they're using, just copying and pasting.
Oh, yeah. I think that's on our radar. So both of those things are on our radar.
Okay, great. So feel free to unmute and tell us what you think. Or if you have any questions, of course. There's a question from Esra. Does Kialo work all countries, or no, I don't think you need a VPN. Definitely not.
No, it's web-based, so you can access it anywhere.
What about languages? That's another thing. Is that on the radar too?
Yeah, let me go back over here. We are in almost every language. We do a really good job of that. Let me see if I can find that. We are an international company, so I know that we are in almost every single language. I can't find it on the screens that I have up right now. But yeah, we're in I don't think that there's a language we're not in yet that we haven't been asked to be in. So if we haven't done it already, we're on it.
So not only right, left to right, but also right to left, because that
Yes.
could be
Yeah, we have
problematic.
all the
Okay.
accessibility stuff. Yeah.
So Arabic,
Yes.
Japanese, Chinese, up
Yep.
and down, left and
Yep. Yep.
right.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Great.
Yeah, we have colleagues, I think, on 5 continents. Like we are
Mm.
really an international team.
Any other questions or comments? There's a question there. Sorry, I missed that, Amber. But you can unmute. We'd love to hear your voice. And since you're presenting, you can try out the audio.
Hey, hi. Thank you, Dr.
Hi,
Nelly, and thank you,
Amber.
Dr. Sam. That was a wonderful presentation. I'm excited to further explore Kialo. So yes, I had just asked if it would integrate with platforms like Talent LMS. We're exploring all types of different LMSs, and Dr. Sam already answered me that I can send her an email and she'll
Oh,
find out. So I'm already working on that email, but it was a
Yay.
great presentation and very inspiring. And I'm really looking forward to presenting as well and grateful for the opportunity.
thank you. We're looking
Thank
forward to
you.
your session too. So when you talk about other LMSs, do you mean like Canvas, not just
Schoology.
Talent LMS, but all of them?
Yeah, Google Classroom, all of it. Yeah, all the majors we integrate with, and then we've got LTI 1.3 integration and all that stuff. And if anybody, my email is in there, it's sm@kialo.com. If you have any of those questions, I'm happy to send you resources and all of that stuff on integration for your specific LMS.
Okay. What about AI? Yeah, I asked about problems, but I'm talking now not about problems, but about resources, to back up ideas. If I have a point of view and I want to substantiate it, will there be such an option of having an AI help me out?
At Kialo?
Yeah, within Kialo, instead of going somewhere else, especially if I'm a young learner, maybe I don't,
We
it's
are
not advisable.
Yeah, we are currently thinking about what we want to do with AI in the future right now. So that's what I
Okay, so that could be one direction.
could be. Yep.
Because if we're talking about young learners, this might be a chance for them to, research and find information from an AI tool, but not have to go to the ones where if they're under 13, for sure. Or, maybe it's not advisable for them to go to the popular ones for various ethical and bias issues. So to have something on Kialo might be really, really good.
Yeah, well, and I think, I mean, anytime I'm always thinking about the future of education, anytime we embrace the now because it's reality and it's here,
Yeah,
like doing research online for these young kids will be done with AI. So the sooner we start teaching it with AI, the better, because they're just going to do it without us. So how do we do the
that's
dude
what I'm
part
worried
do?
about, that they'll be going into adult,
Yeah.
sites, so to speak, and AI tools rather than having them, I mean, kids, um, user friendly for kids and, instead of having to go to the adults, the ones that may not be suitable.
So I want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly so I can share this with our team.
Yeah.
So like for our 8 to 10-year-old group, like if
Mhm.
Kialo had done the developmentally appropriate work to kind of like, if they're interacting with, okay, I got you. And we create it.
Exactly.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
that would benefit, even though it costs money. I have no idea. I mean, I keep saying this, but I have no idea how they're managing with their business plan. But this is what, educators want. We want things where you don't have to pay. For example, in the previous session, Jasmine mentioned, creating a chat, a GPT, sorry, a GPT agent, and you can't unless you pay. So, most of these things for and they're not thinking of educators, obviously, they're thinking of people who can afford it. And we know that most educators can't, and they do so much. So, why not have, free tools for educators? But nonetheless, as someone else mentioned at the beginning, Rob mentioned, some of these tools can't survive because their business plan doesn't allow them, they're making everything free, and that's not sustainable. So how do you bind the two? It's just maybe it's a Kialo discussion.
Well, and how do we, I mean, on top of that, as we expand that issue, I think this is a greater, this would be a cool group to kind of like think about this issue maybe down the road or in next year's conference too, is the digital divide, right? The greater these things become, the greater the digital divide becomes. And that is extremely problematic when we think about the literacy rate before the digital divide. And now we've got the digital divide plus a print text illiteracy. So like, how do we help people come to the table and be at the same place, right? A starting place. How do we equitably restart that starting place? And I think that's what your question is getting at too. And yeah, I hope there are more people who want to do the type of work that Kialo is out there doing and funding.
Exactly, which is absolutely amazing. Hard to believe. Anyways, any other questions? Share. There's a share that. Okay, that we got. I'm looking for questions or comments. All right, you really have to try Kialo, and there is that's the Moodle link, and you can join us too there, Sam. I hope you will, because that's where you'll be getting your certificate. If you do, if not, I will send it to you. But nonetheless, I would still have to create an account for you. So if you could do that, join us at the conference area. But I also created where is it? I also created one. There are two of them. I created another one outside. Well, actually, it's the same thing. Where is it? Oh no, I added both of them. I thought I added the other one. I guess I added both. Here, there's the other one. Sorry. The web-based one is exactly the same, which makes it absolutely amazing. So if your students can't log in for some reason into the LMS, they can still benefit from the Kialo. I think we lost our presenter there. So they're, yeah, so they're both there. Hi, Sam. We missed you for a second there. So what I said was, in case you missed it, is that I took the Moodle one and I was able to go into my account and also create a web-based one. And this is really important. We talked about the digital divide. For those who don't have an internet, I can share this on WhatsApp or in different ways with the students if they can't go into the Moodle or into the LMS for some reason. So this makes it a lot easier. Another question might be offline. That's another thing, to have an app of some kind. But this could be used on their phones too, which makes it also browser-based. Yeah, Nevis, that's what I really like about it, because not everybody can afford an LMS. If you're a teacher, if your school doesn't use it, then you can use, yes, Eba? Eba, I see that you wanted to say something. No, I guess not. Sorry, I just saw. Okay. All right. So once again, we will have big problems. Cell phones being banned in schools. That's Italy right now. Is that correct? Yeah. So then we would have to have offline. In Egypt too. That's interesting. What do you think of that? So Egypt is also planning on banning cell phones. Didn't I give a talk in Egypt on smartphones? So that's unfortunate. EU countries, France. Wow. That's interesting information. And we're talking about Nevis high schools. We're not talking necessarily about younger learners, but high school students as well.
Exactly, Dr. Nelly. Also, in Italy, for example, it has been banned from elementary schools all the way through to the senior high schools. So we're going to have a lot of problems using any
By the
type.
way, I allowed, you can put on your camera. Doesn't look good, just have your name in black. So neighbors, we'd love to see you too.
Not at the moment. I'm not.
Okay, sorry. In case.
Okay, just really quickly, yeah, it's going, and I think France has done exactly the same, banned it all the way through. The only way that we can work around it in Italy, at our school especially, is by booking the tablets or the computers for that hour and getting them to work that way online.
So it's going back in time. It's going back to the computers, to having computer rooms or having
we have
outside the classroom.
Yeah, we have now made available with the new European funding. Most schools have set up a mobile cart where there's like 20 or 25 PCs or tablets that are in the hallways, and there's 2 or 3 of these carts that can be booked by the teachers, and they're unlocked at the moment, that you have booked them for, and then you have to bring them back in the hallway. But they're much closer than they used to be, so we don't have to really move the students around, but we do have to make sure to book it. It's not something that you can do like I would do when you're doing a lesson, and then maybe you see that you've come to a point where you could do a Kahoot, that you've already got a Kahoot happening, or anything else that you can create with AI in the moment, and the students can use their phones. That type of activity will definitely be gone from our schools from this September. So we'll just have to.
Wow, that's right now. That's so, and the same thing I see in Argentina. So we've got the Middle East, South America, and Europe. Wow. All right, so interesting things are going to be happening around the world, but maybe we'll be back to paper and pen. You're laughing, eh, there, Sam? I see your audio's off.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I mean, the future of education is here. I understand, like, the cell phones, but also like we have to find ways to embrace what is happening and what technologies kids do have. So I don't know. I don't have an answer right now. It's just alarming.
But I guess that helps with the digital divide.
Or does it?
It's like with uniforms, okay? You'll have uniforms because you don't want to avoid any kind of same thing with computers. And well, it's interesting.
We should
but
Kialo discussion this.
yes, exactly. Yeah, this will be a discussion in week 2 because I've got something for week 1 for day day 1. So thank you. Misuse of smartphones.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, and thank you once again.